Hi guys, happy Thursday. I'm going to do a quiz review. I'm going to do this in two parts. There's going to be four questions total. I'll do questions one and two in the first part, and then I'll make a second part that does questions three and four. I just do that basically because it's easier to upload and get everything set up with a shorter video. Okay, so on the quiz tomorrow, the quiz I'm going to open up around 8:30 in the morning. You've got an hour to do it. It's going to be four free response questions, right, where you're going to have to actually type in sentences and whatnot. And then there's going to be four multiple choice questions after that, and they'll be mixed together. Okay, so no secrets. These four questions that I'm going to go over will be very similar to the expectations of what you're going to have to do. And I'll try to focus on points so you guys know where you're going to get points when I ask you guys to do this type of stuff. Okay? All right, so let's jump in here. Question one. This is from section 1.1. It just gives you a table. And it says there's some information about the tallest buildings in the world. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Tallest buildings in the world. And then you've got descriptive statistics that talk about each building. Okay, so when they ask for the individuals in the data set, you would say the 10 or the list of 10 tallest buildings in the world. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm taking the information, right, from the directions, and I'm going to say how many there are. And that's plenty of description for the individuals. I don't need you to recopy all of these down. That just would take too much time. So for individuals, just label, what it is you're talking about. Okay, so question B jumps into variables, right? And variables are descriptive things about the individuals. So if the individuals are the buildings, the variables talk about things about the building. For instance, this first building here, I do not know how to pronounce that, Khalifa, Burj Khalifa, something like that, is in the United Arab Emirates, and its height in meters is 828, 163 floors, mixed use, and year built. And so right here, right, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 descriptions about the building, and these are what we would call the variables. And so your first variable would be country. Okay, and so I want you to list the variable, but then it says specifically indicate whether one is categorical or quantitative. And so you'll remember back from the notes, hopefully, categorical variables are variables that describe the individual and that it does not make sense to take an average. So in this case, it doesn't make sense to take the average country. So country would be categorical. The second variable would be height, right, in meters. And you could definitely find an average height. That's what makes a variable quantitative. The third one would be floors. And you could definitely, again, find the average number of floors, right, for a building. So that would also be quantitative. The fourth one over here would be use. Like, what is the building used for, right? Is it a hotel, office, or mixed space? In this case, that would definitely be categorical. And the last one would be the year built. Now, some people could get confused here because it seems like quantitative variables are variables that deal with numbers. Well, this is a number, right? The year, these look like numbers, but it does not make sense to find an average year built. You might argue with me on that one, but I think that categorical would be more in place here. For year built, find the average year. I mean, if it was like years old, something like that, it might make more sense. But as far as just the year built, I'm going with categorical. Okay, I don't think that there's any variables on the actual quiz that are up for debate. So you should be good with that. Okay, so again, you should be able to identify the individuals of the table that things are being described, and the description are the variables, and what type they are is either categorical or quantitative. Okay, moving into number 2, we've got marginal distribution, okay, and conditional distribution. And this definitely ends up being a little confusing for students the first time around. And a lot of people get confused because this table is different than a lot of tables that I gave you in the notes. Notably, there are no totals. And so on the quiz, there's no way for you to answer marginal distribution or conditional distribution questions without these total values. Okay, so you need to come in with your calculator and do 75 plus 107 to get this total over here, which is 182. And then 962 plus 794 will add up to 1,756. And then 732 plus 595 equals 1327. And if you go down, right, to find the total private types of college, right, management level people, we'll talk about what this chart is in a second, but just adding up would be the first thing that I would do. This total is going to be 1,496. And the final one would be 1,769. And so what you guys have here are column totals, but then down here, right, in this corner, remember from the notes, this is a table total. And so if you add up all three of these, 182 and 1756 and 1327, you'll get your table total of 3,265. And that was adding these three up. If you add these two up, you should get exactly the same thing. And it's probably worth doing it on an assessment to make sure that you didn't make an error, right, in your calculator. And this guy here is the table total. Okay. So let's contextualize this question and figure out what's happening here. So it says researchers looked at the relationship between the type of college attended, public or private, and achievement. Gather the following data on 3,265. So that's good because that's what we got. People who graduated from college in the same year. Okay, the variable management level describes their job description 20 years after graduating. Okay, so the question is, you can see kind of where they're going here. Does going to a public or a private school, right, tend to end up with a person at a high, medium, or low management level? Okay, all right, so marginal distribution by definition, right, is equal to, right, it's either a column or a row total over the table total. Okay, and that's just something you have to memorize. If you're ever asked to find a marginal distribution, it is going to be using all total numbers. So you're not going to use any of these individual numbers inside of your two-way table. Okay, so it's asking calculate the marginal distribution of management level. So you want to calculate management level. And so you are going to focus here for A. And it's saying, let's find those marginal distributions. So you're going to find three things: high, medium, and low. And so your high marginal distribution would be the total number of high jobs, 182, out of the table total, 3,265. Then you're going to find the same thing for medium, which would be a total of 1,756 medium management level jobs out of everyone, 3,265. And we're going to get percents here. And our last one would be low, which would be a total of 1,327 out of 3,265. And to address, the decimals and stuff like that, we will probably just go to one decimal. So let's see what we got here. 182 divided by 3,265 gives us, remember, to find a percent, you need to move the decimal 2 spots. So I'm going to get 5.57. I'm going to round that to 5.6%. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing for medium. So 1,756 divided by 3,265. And I'm going to move it 2 spots, and I'm going to get 53.8 because that rounds up percent. And this last one is 1327 divided by 3,265 for a total of 40.6%. Okay. And what you guys would want to focus on, right? You guys are seniors, you're going into the real world. Like, what did you just find? You now know that of all 3,265 people that were surveyed, only 5.6% end up in a high management level, regardless of college, right? This is a total, public and private. Same thing here. The majority of people end up in a medium management level with percent left over for the low management level. Okay. All right. So marginal distribution, you use your total numbers out of your table total. Okay, I'll do this last part B. We'll talk about points on these two problems, and then I will stop the video and we'll do video number 2 for the backside. Okay, so find the conditional distribution of management level for each college type. So again, you guys are focusing on college type now, okay? And when you're doing conditional distributions, you're no longer using totals, right, as your numerator. You're going to use these top numbers. Okay, and so here we're focusing on college type. So for part B, it says for college type, which means you are only going to look at these numbers here, and you are going to ignore these numbers. These have nothing to do with us anymore. We're only going to focus on type of college and then find the conditional distribution. Meaning, let's first find public. Okay, so if we first focus on public college, you're only going to use those 4 numbers. And so you would say down here, public. Okay, you're going to have 3 different types. You're going to have high, medium, and low. And so you would say high, medium, and low. And the difference is your percent is calculated by how many, assuming you went to public school, how many individuals have a high management level? 75. Out of how many people? Out of 1,769, because again, we're only focusing on public education. Okay. And then medium would be 962 out of 1,769. And low management would be 732 out of 1,769. Same game. Let's find our percents. 75 divided by 1,769 gives me 4.2%. Okay, medium would be 962 divided by 1769, which would be 54.4%. I know you guys can't see the calculator, but it's okay. You can check my numbers here. 732 divided by 1769 gives you 41.4%. Okay, so conditional distribution is only using a particular column or a particular row. The reason we're using this column is because they say for each college type. So think about what we just found, you guys. This is really helpful. It says, look, given you went to and graduated from public school, we now know only 4.2%, right, have a high management level, with the majority having medium and low. And so let's do the same thing for private school, right? And then we can compare. So if you talk about kids who graduate from private school, which obviously costs more money usually, but sometimes they get better scholarships, right? You've got high, you've got medium, and low. It's the same percent game. So we have 107 out of 1496. We have 794 out of 1496. And 595 out of 1496. Okay, again, I'm doing the calculations off on the side. 107 divided by that gives 7.2%. 794 divided by 1496 for medium would be 53.1%. And the last one would be 39.8%. Okay. And so what that allows us to do for our conditional distribution is say, hey, look, if somebody tells you, hey, my name is Brian and I graduated from public school, right, you can assume that only about 4.2% of the time that person, me, has a high management level. Versus if you went to a private school, right, it's not a lot more, but if you think about how much more, that's almost, right, double that would be 8.4. And so it would definitely seem to be significantly higher number of private schools. Okay. All right, guys, let me do some points real quick, and then I'm going to turn this video off, and I'll do the backside in 1 second. So up here, I'll probably give you guys 2 points for listing the individuals. If you're going to identify the variables, you've got a lot of stuff here. I'm not going to give you too many points because that would overweight it, but consider, all 5 done correctly. You would get 5 points there. Down here on your marginal distribution, I would give you guys 3 points for your correct percents. And on the last one, your public and private, again, 3 correct ones and 3 correct ones. What I will say is when I look at the whole quiz and the points, I'll make sure that one question doesn't hurt you too bad. Okay? All right, you guys, I will post the second one right after this, so watch that next.